Okay, to start things off, this is a poster that was presented across Ontario by the government, I imagine, the health department, and it's basically telling us that the COVID-19 variant spread fast, stay home, save lives. This notice was published in a local media in Ontario, anyways, and saying that it declared a state of emergency, taking effect January 13th at 12:01 a.m. And again, that the requirements were to stay home unless you actually need to go out for things like food, work, healthcare services, or exercise for at least 28 days. Primarily, lockdowns were used to help reduce or prevent the spread of potentially dangerous viruses and the variants that were threatening to overrun the healthcare system. Again, these variants were said to be very fast spreading and potentially more dangerous than the COVID-19 strain. On January 13th, emergency lockdowns were implemented in Ontario that entailed stay-at-home orders, restrictions on travel, and allowed only for very specific travel for things like food, medical or dental appointments, exercise, or taking animals out for walks. What you see here is the notice that they're saying they're going to come in and paint the hallways starting January the 20th. This notice highlights the idea that they're going to need to paint the door, and the door must be opened. All doors in the building must be opened during an extreme lockdown, an emergency lockdown. The following section is included to demonstrate that the people in the building had no idea they could have refused to open their doors, should have been wearing a mask, and should have avoided standing in the doorway talking to people. Phone records clearly demonstrated that I had called the property manager the day before the workers showed up and started painting. I had discussed this at length and emphatically requested they reschedule this at least until after the emergency lockdown was over. Knowing these people and what was expected of them to keep themselves safe was clearly not in line with their safety. Many opened their doors and sat in their living rooms with no masks right beside their front door while the workers and other tenants roamed about. The workers that were brought into our living space were never actually tested for the COVID-19 virus or the variants. They were only screened by asking if they had any symptoms. These workers were all between the ages of 20 and 30 years of age, which was reported to be the group that were showing the highest infection rates from the variants. These variants, again, were reported to be much more infectious and much more dangerous than the original COVID-19 strain. They are also said to be asymptomatic. That means if anyone was infected with the variant strains, the workers and residents would not even know they were sick. This had the potential to kill or cause serious illnesses to the most vulnerable of society. This was at a time when there were no vaccines available and, again, could have been very dangerous for these people had there been anyone infected during this non-essential work. There seems to be some very disturbing confusion about what an essential building is and what work can be done during emergency lockdowns. An essential business is one that must remain open. Apartment buildings are essential because if they close, the people in them either move out or experience risks from the essential things like safety, security, sanitation, and other necessary operations. Painting doors and replacing carpets are not absolutely necessary to the occupants. They may be nice, but they are not essential. This is where I feel the problem lies with the non-essential work being done in essential buildings during an emergency lockdown and why they shouldn't happen. This is the Reopening Ontario Act cover, and this is what's used by the municipal bylaw enforcement and anybody else who may be enforcing the laws. As you can see, the section here, maintenance number 35, describes Maintenance, repair, and property management services that manage and maintain the safety, security, sanitation, and operation of institutional, commercial, industrial, and residential properties and buildings. I will explain more in the following document. ROA, Reopening Ontario Act, OREG 8280. This is the guidelines for municipal by law enforcement officers, police, and anyone else used to enforce and advise the public on matters of shutdowns, lockdowns, or whatever else may be in connection with these statutes and regulations. There is a huge gap in the definition of essential businesses and what they should be doing during an emergency lockdown. The wording needs to be made much clearer. The powers of an enforcement agency should be much clearer. Lives were at risk and they failed them. In closing, I will outline what we are aiming to accomplish and how you can help. First thing is to have the ROA revised to ensure the wording is clear on non-essential work. Second is to find out how widespread this was in Ontario, and if the first and or second items are not accomplished, to take more aggressive actions. How you can help is easy enough. Share this video with others who may be affected directly or have friends or relatives that live in a senior building and had similar work done during the emergency lockdown. If you know of anyone who lives in a senior building that has seen this sort of thing happening, have them send the details to seniordignityrespect@gmail.com. Donate funds to the Senior Dignity Respect GoFundMe. Thank you for watching and for any support you can provide.